Murphy. James, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me, Angus. Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to do this for a while, and with COVID being very present in our lives, I think it's great that we actually get the time now to sit down and have a chat. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this guy is probably the hardest to get hold of. We've been trying since September last year?
Yeah.
It's always been a thing, but either I'm too busy or he's too busy, we never get a chance to talk. But now we do. And I want to recap your career quickly. Up until this point, you are still very young, obviously.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
I've just turned 25.
Yeah, okay, not that young.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. I mean, young to an extent.
Yeah, you're still young in rugby terms, so.
Yeah.
So you started off your career in a very unusual way at Marty's. Not the usual academy kind of guy who comes to the Springbok Academy and then being into the main side. How did it start for you?
So basically, I think you do know this side of the story, but I actually didn't play rugby at school. I played hockey. I did represent Western Province in touch rugby growing up through high school. I mean, I've had a deep passion for rugby my whole life. I just was always too small. I really
believe now.
Yeah, I mean, I grew 8 centimeters in about 7 months in grade 11, so it was a big jump for me in height. And in terms of rugby, my family, my dad's one of 5 brothers that most of them represented Natal. My grandfather and both my grandfathers actually captained Natal and that. So my mum's side of the family, my grandfather captained Natal, and then my dad's side of the family. As well, my grandfather was also a prominent rugby player. So I mean, I've got roots to Yapi cricket here at Port as well. So I mean, rugby's always kind of been in my family. My dad played Natal. So I always loved it. But then, hockey, I was much better at hockey than I was at rugby. I was always an athlete at school. I always did athletics, which obviously helps in any sport. I was a 100 meter and high jumper. So the combo, I think, in any sport will help you, with explosiveness and speed. I think training that outside of the sport will always help you. So I was kind of forced into doing that with athletics. So I think it always gives you a bit of an upper hand. So then I went to Marty's actually to play hockey. I was in academia, which is not typically known as a sporting res. But they needed an extra outside back, and I obviously, having stayed in contact with my rugby through touch rugby, I just stuck my hand up, played, and before I knew it, I actually got an email from the rugby guys at Marty's under 19 trials. I think out of however many, I don't even know how many players there were in the first year's tournament, they shortlisted 50, and I was on that shortlist, and I wasn't going to go, but I ended up going, and it was awesome. What a cool experience. Made my Marty's in the 19A debut a couple of weeks later against UCT. What an awesome experience. I think there was only like 2 English guys in the whole side, so coming from quite an English background. It was really interesting. I mean, not even greeting other players, because we didn't have any common language, to them, some of them being some of my best friends today, which is awesome. I played Marty's with them, and within the next 2 years we'd all made our Marty's debut, first team together. And then I moved over to the Sevens, and then from there, Marty's Sevens is where you kind of asked the initial question, but just the background story of that and how I got there. And then Coach Ian Campbell McGahey, everybody knows him as Miyagi. Yeah. And he really took me under his wing. He's been an absolute role model and a mentor for me the whole way through. I mean, even now he sends me messages often when you're playing, when send me the footage of your scrumming. He really is really hands-on, even though he's moved to Bloom now. He's been massive influential person in my life, and it's come to Sevens. And so then I went and I played for the Samurais, which was quite a big foot in the door. I'm sure you know about the Samurais. Yeah. Kurtli came through there, Ronald, Nirvana, a lot of the guys come through there. It bridges the gap for the guys that missed the boat through SA schools and stuff. And I played for Western Province Sevens, actually just trying to make the Marty's team. I ended up making the Western Province Sevens team, which was awesome. Coach Ricky gave me an opportunity there, and Coach Bobby, who's now a head coach at Grey Bloom. They gave me a chance, and I managed to take my opportunity. And when the shot opened up here at the Sevens for an opportunity for a trial, I knew I only had one opportunity. I turned down an opportunity to go to America as well as Scotland. I don't know if you know Carl Stein,
He's played Scotland now,
yeah.
for Griquas, and
Yes.
he's played Varsity Top Martyrs as well.
Yes, so we were in the same seven setup as well, and we both kind of got a similar offer to kind of go, well, the same kind of conversations. We probably both would have gone, as I've got British descent, and I ended up turning that down and stayed, and I've never looked back, and I don't regret that for a second, because very few players have had the privilege of coming into the setup and not even have played academy and gone straight into the World Series. So, I'm extremely grateful and privileged to have that opportunity, and that's kind of how my career started at the Sevens. And sometimes it can be harder because you get a taste of it and then you must go back down to the normal pecking order to work your way up. So yeah, it's been awesome.
What a story, eh? What a story. But I'm glad you didn't go, because you would have been lost in the system, and no James Murphy playing. And people would be complaining, oh, I was playing for Scotland.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I've been complaining about that lately. You see all the fun of Mavers and Standards and everything overseas.
So half the Scottish team is South African.
Yeah, it's crazy. Even some Irish boys as well.
No, they're half Kiwi now. Well, the World Series started last year in Dubai, and then Cape Town, and then I think it was Sydney, and then the Wellington, was it the other league? Was it Hamilton? Hamilton.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where the series started, but lockdown came, intervened, unfortunately, and stopped all the fun and games, literally. And with the Olympics on the horizon, everything was stopped. And we had to adapt and improvise to the new norm.
Yes.
So, obviously, many guys who've been staying in our houses for 21 days still fell for that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's been a year now. But how is you guys, as a Bespoke's group, have adapted to the new norm? And do you think you've done it quite well so far?
I think the last couple of weeks of games was really the test to see if the adapted approach we had paid off. Had we maintained our consistency and our performance? Where were we slacking? Was it fitness? Was it skills? And I think, to be honest, I could confidently say we are relatively successful in the way we've handled it. I think that in terms of conditioning and skills, we've really managed the process well. I think the hardest time was obviously when we were supposed to be in camp prepping for World Series tournaments, and we were locked down, stuck at home. Everybody in the sevens coming from completely different backgrounds. Some guys having access to full gyms, other guys making gyms from bricks and
I get that.
So there you go. So it's completely different backgrounds, and having to have a common goal. You're telling a guy who has access to a gym and a guy who uses water bottles for his bicycles. It's pretty amazing how when we all came back, everybody jumped back on the same page, and I think everybody was really understanding, and big ups to the coaches and the conditioning staff, Gaff and Sticks, for implementing programs that accommodated everybody and keeping us on our toes. I think when we got back, our work was definitely still cut out for us, but I think we really have adapted well. I mean, no one wants to play rugby with a mask on. I mean, we have to train with it on, and that's how it is, unless we're doing games like today. So, the protocols are a hassle, but, anything just to get the opportunity to play. So, in terms of a system, I'd say, seriously successful, relative to what the surroundings are. I think the guys were getting a bit impatient. We had the Spain opportunity taken away from us, which I think really, crushed the hopes a bit. I know for someone like me, to go on that tour would have been amazing. I was almost 1 foot in the plane, and it just got taken away. So I think we spent so long at a 5-week really tough camp leading up to that, which is probably one of the longer camps we've ever had. Seriously tough, but prepping us for that, and then you just get it taken away. So I think mentally people underestimate what that does to somebody whose life is rugby, and you train for those types of opportunities. I know Coach often talks about opportunities you get on a training field, and don't underestimate them, but opportunities that you get in game time to be able to test what you've learned, because on the training field you're obviously trying to fix the small things, and you only see that in results from playing back-to-back tournaments where you go into week 1 and you make a few mistakes, you go back to the drawing board and try to fix those mistakes. So I think it's been tough, and even Coach said to us the other day in our team meeting, even he struggled. He's just as competitive as us. He's been there all the coaching staff basically at the Springbok Sevens were players. So they wouldn't, you can't be here if you don't have that little bit of competitiveness, that bit of fight. For the sake of, so I'll keep my language down, but you've got to have that little dog fight in you. And with that comes the urge to play and the urge to perform. And, not having the ability to do that's been really tough. But yeah, I think overall as a system, the guys really have bought in to the unpredictability. And I think that's ultimately the answer to my question, or the battle in between. But, the guys really have bought into the fact that from day to day our program will change. From, we're going on tour next week to, oh no, we're extending our camp 2 more weeks, you've got to grind it out. So that adaptability in the beginning, guys are going, oh, my back, I'm sore. But now the guys will just say, cool, let's do it, get it done. And I think that showed in the games today and yesterday.
That's all the mindset there. And you mentioned playing with a mask on. I tried jogging. I'm not sure if you remember when the lockdown ended, but I think we went to level 4. They said you can go jog outside now. Yeah. And I saw people on the road who I never saw before, by the way.
Yeah, no, I mean...
And I tried, I think I went probably 500 meters, and I was like, no, screw this.
But that's exactly it. It's so tough, eh? I mean, in lockdown especially, I know for me, I'm not necessarily your household name, but for guys that are household names, people will look at opportunity. You'd be surprised what media would do to be able to take a photo of a guy like Franco Dupree without a mask on running, breaking the law. So people jump at that, sadly, but it's a reality. So you actually don't have a choice but to run with this. I try to do some DIY masks at home with filters and everything, but it's not the same, mate. It's just not the same.
Definitely not. You are 25 years old, like I said, relatively young in your rugby career, but injuries have not been kind to you so far.
No.
It's not been kind to you so far. How did you manage to stay grounded and motivated during those times? Because you were out for long periods of time for certain injuries, I remember.
Yeah, I've had some really weird injuries and some funny things that have happened to me. Just, even some of them on field, some of them off field. I was really found myself on form before Dubai 2018 going to 2019 season. And I got bitten by, 2019 going into the 2020 season, I really found myself on form. And I got bitten by a spider. They put me out for 3 weeks, put me in hospital. Literally I was a couple of days away where they were thinking,
it's the end of it.
Yeah. So, that kept me out for a while and actually had after effects as well, which was not so lucky. I got flown home from Dubai early, pulled out of the tournament after the second game. So, that was horrible. Then I suffered a seriously bad shoulder injury where I dislocated my shoulder out the back. So that's a 6-month return to play. And that's your season. So I went to Singapore and Hong Kong in 2019, and after Singapore we decided that it was time to operate. So it was the end of the season there. Spent my whole off time doing rehab, which is obviously honestly a time that you actually really need away from rugby, is that off season. And I ended up having it here at SAS doing my rehab, and then straight back into the new season, and then got bitten by the spider. So I had back-to-back serious frustrations, but I think there's one thing that's really kept me motivated through those injuries is having a game plan outside of rugby, and not necessarily a backup plan but a game plan. What do I do when I'm away from rugby? So people are so consumed, they think if you're professional rugby, your whole life has to be rugby. Yes, I agree, your decisions need to be rugby based, and I speak about what's a responsibility and what's a sacrifice. Not going out and getting drunk, that's not a sacrifice for rugby. That's a responsibility. And I think a lot of people, they struggle to tell that difference. And I think for me, within my responsibilities, found ways to really be happy off the field, whether it be working part-time, studying further, doing my, busy doing my Fagasa, which is my game ranging course. I'm super passionate about the bush. So for me, it's been really honing life outside of rugby when the time is right. Obviously, as a professional rugby player, you need to be thinking about what your responsibilities are as a rugby player, but also having a life outside of rugby. I think Coach Neil hammers on it as well with family and girlfriends. Some guys have been in long relationships. It's important to manage that kind of stuff, and I think that's what really has given me the motivation, because with a positive influence coming from the outside, saying everything you're doing is for something, So I think the people around you, the system as well, it's easy to get lost in the system because obviously you're not with the team. You're doing rehab, you're on your own, you're in that little dark chamber, all on your own, gymming there, and to have someone like Nadia and Joe, who are arguably probably the best rehab facilitators in the world, and I say that confidently. And you know they know how to play on your mental strengths to keep you focused, to keep you good. And I think the whole system here is built to keep you and you know keep you happy, keep you working ultimately, but in a happy place. So with the support structures here, I think it's been awesome. And the guys as well. I mean, I've got awesome friends here at the Sevens. Just the smallest effort, like a guy like Ryan popping in when you're doing rehab, saying, "Hey bud, how's your shoulder? How are things going? Where you going? How's the rehab? When you're back? What's the doctor saying?" The little things like that show that people care, and then when you get back, you're coming back to something that you love. So I think all those little puzzle pieces from the outside life to the coaches, you know, saying how you going, how's your rehab, just that little bit of interest, you know, Nadia and them, you know, making sure you're on par, the boys, that whole package. You know, it's not just one thing that really keeps you coming back. It's a whole package of that whole support system altogether, which keeps you kind of really wanting to come back.
That's nice to hear, actually. And because you mentioned now something interesting, the bush. I've seen your Instagram and I've seen you posting a lot of bush stuff, but one that stood out for me in particular was the conservation you involved in protecting lions.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you mind maybe telling me more about that?
Yes, of course. So this is actually a band that we sell online. It's called Pal. It's a Pal bracelet. It's called Protecting African Lions. And basically this colour, it all started, so my sister's boyfriend, actually, it's all quite close in the mix, but his brother is quite a famous artist. And he patented the colour. So this is actually called McCready Blue.
Wow.
So yeah, he, with his passion for the bush, they've got a spot up in Botswana where they go as well to the bush. They love it. Big into conservation as well. His passion, Bob Marley's relation, Rowan Marley, and him, he's got his Lion brand coffee. Steve Travis from the UK as well. He's very involved. So it's actually like a global setup where everybody has a kind of common interest. And so these bracelets are sold handmade in Africa, which is awesome. And they're sold for the profits. For that exact expedition I got bitten by a spider, actually. It was out there trying to save a lion and ended up nearly dying. So it's basically a foundation that was created many years back, and I'm super passionate about the bush and the fact that it aligns with my family, or potential family, but I call them family anyway because we're all so close, and the fact that it aligns with my passion. And my cousin is a conservationist. She lives out on her own in Mozambique.
Wow.
In one of the Katalas, I mean, like conditions you've never seen, just with a passion for the bush. So, you know, she's jumped on board as well, but with this, which has been really cool to be able to work with her because I never got to see her because she's out there and I'm here. But now with all this common interest, we get to spend time together. We talk about things that interest us both, which is really cool because she's 32 now. So often that gap is sometimes not bridged with something. So it's cool to have commonalities involved, which has been really cool. So yeah, the foundation basically runs on a project basis. We support certain bigger funds as well, through auctions, through donations. We teamed up with the Green Team team from Europe, the Liechtenstein's foundation, which is awesome. We did like bands for them. Yeah, it's super cool to be able to, even if in the smallest way, try have some kind of influence on things that are greater than us. It's easy to get caught up in the world. I was just behind you there. I see there's a stadium there, and it kind of puts you in the scene. It's easy to get caught up in when everything's around you, but it's actually not what it's about. And it's great to be able to have my footprint in something that hopefully, if I make the slightest difference, it still matters.
Awesome, man. Where can people buy this?
You buy them online.
Online. Which website?
Just go protectingafricanlions.com. So so they'll find it there. PAL or Protecting African Lions. It's a great cause, and aesthetically, I play with mine. So
just to give you a hand of someone might see you actually.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully I can get like a pulse stamp on their forehead and then they remember it forever.
Or you made your mark there.
Exactly, that's the point, yeah.
Also, you have another Instagram page where it's labeled Just Adventuring. Would you say that is more like you mentioned earlier now, the James Murphy outside of rugby? Is that like your other personal space?
Yeah, I'm not really by any means a professional photographer, but believe it or not, I'm super into photography and I love capturing things that a lot of people, friends and family around the world don't get to see, especially the bush. So a lot of the times, a lot of it's bush related, but if I ever do other things like hikes and stuff, it's James outside of rugby, as you say, because you never want to dilute big important part of being a professional rugby player is building a brand.
Yeah.
And you don't want to dilute that brand with stuff that maybe rugby fans don't want to see. So that personal page it's more about me expressing myself off the rugby field. So for brands like Asics, I don't want to be posting and being for a brand like Asics that I'm heavily involved in, and I use them on my other page. But in terms of promotional side of it, that's what that rugby side is for. Building brand relationships. People that are leveraging off your lifestyle as well as your your professional brand of rugby. So outside of rugby, yes, that's definitely my more my personality. I love I get a lot of rubbish from the guys here about being a soti, but I love the bush. I wear fillies. When I go to the bush, I wear fillies, khakis, pants. Stereotypical farming attire.
Yeah.
And I love it. I run around the farm barefoot. I grew up going to game farms, and I love it. I love fishing. I love doing all that outdoor stuff. So that kind of page is me, actually, the real me behind the rugby focus. As I said, the two different worlds apart.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other one is also legitimately you, but the rugby side of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, you touched on this, and you kind of answered it, but I want to ask you a question anyway. So, you guys were due to embark to Spain, like you mentioned before, and then the Spanish government said, "Nah, boys, your COVID is too bad, you can't come here anymore." Do you feel that hampered your preparation as a team, or do you feel that you
in terms of preparation for the Olympics?
For the Olympics, exactly. Or do you feel that you have enough backup plans in place to overcome that bit of a hurdle there?
Look, I think Marius Kuman, Coach Shoes, and them are working on the clock in order to get us as prepped as they can. There's a lot of things that are out of control, out of their control, sorry. And we always say control the controllables, focus on what we can. But I think definitely in terms of finding out where we are on international standard, I think it's often nice to benchmark yourselves on your current progress, because that's ultimately how you would measure it. Would be at an international tournament with your USAs, your Argentinas, the guys you actually play against. So in terms of hindering our preparation, I think it definitely has an effect. But with the professionalism that they show here, I think it's not going to hinder us to the extent where it's going to affect our overall performance at the Olympics. I think for us that's more, it was a benchmark to see where we're at. We don't really identify success by winning. So if we went there and won, a lot of people are like, oh, they're great for Olympics. That's
if you learn
yes, but that's the thing. So it's all very well you go there and you win, everyone goes, oh, they're ready for the Olympics. It's not actually the case. We have our own benchmarks of success, and it's processes and accuracy and effort. So if we can judge ourselves on how accurate we are in executing what we're training and putting in that 110% effort, that's how we measure it. So, whether or not you get to play in Spain or play here on the weekend, accuracy and effort comes down to what we're doing. So, regardless of who you're playing against, if we're hitting our accuracy and effort, it doesn't really matter who they're putting in front of us. So, whether it be SAS Rugby Sevens or whether it be the USA Rugby Sevens, as long as we're hitting our terms of success, I think we're building towards the bigger picture for Olympics. And I think in terms of hindering us, and it obviously does. It's good to get that experience, but I think there's a bigger plan, and there are tournaments in the horizon from what it sounds like, going independent.
Yeah, it's all about ticking those boxes, eh?
Yes,
it's all about ticking those boxes. So many Sevens players, including a lot of your teammates, think about Stephen Hans, Curtly Arendse, Angela Davids, they all went on and had successful 15 stints recently. And even a guy like Wayne Cock and Ciabello Sonatla, who's been playing for a while now.
Yeah.
Do you ever see yourself going into 15s?
Look, I think it's very difficult, to think like that when my mind is set. In my family, I've told my family there's the big three. There's the Commonwealth Games, Olympics, and World Cup. I can't do any of those right now playing 15s at a Super Rugby Union. And that's the dream, to play the pinnacle sport Olympics. And I think I've got opportunity now this Olympics, and I think at 29 I could still be chasing a leather ball around. So I would love to get the opportunity to go and play for a union. It would have to be the right union and for the right reasons. But I think if I do go to 15s, the sad reality is it would probably be overseas. Because I feel like that's where the opportunity would be. I think obviously South Africa is moving in a direction where they are really focusing on guys that are in the 15s game already coming up, so to take a guy from sevens where they could be bringing in under 21 player that's really kind of been sticking his hand up for 2 years in the 15s, and then we see it in the 7s. The guys leave the 15s and they come back and they play. So it's sometimes finding the balance, for 15s unions, for us to go to them and say, hey, look, I know we haven't been there for the whole age group, but hey, it creates angst within systems. I know, there's this lure about which 15s guys are coming back, and I know as much as everybody says it's not to worry about, focus on sevens, but the reality is, if you've got world-class players like Kwagga Smith and Dylan Sage coming back, and and as a forward, you're naturally thinking, okay, I've seriously got up my game. So yes, there's a positive side to it because you bring your own game up. But those guys coming back, it's difficult for a guy like Coach Neil not to pick those players if they come back. So if I could go to 15 unions and have the same effect to come back into the system, by all means, I would love that. And if I got the opportunity, I've been chatting to my agent recently about potential opportunities to move into the 15 game when sevens is not on, like a dual kind of contract. But I think my focus is at the sevens for now. I love it here. I love the idea. I love the family. I love the way we work. I think I was at under 21 Western Province pre-season squad, and it's nothing against Western Province and 15s. It's just the system here is a full time. We live together. Yeah. How do you go from being in a system that everything is so tight, giving that up for something that you're not sure how it goes? So it's a risk I'm willing to take if the time comes. But for now, my focus is on the sevens, and I really want to put my stamp and mark. This, almost not banging on the doors. Coach Bill says I got to keep knocking, keep going, keep banging. So I'm almost banging through every hinge on the door. I think very much sevens focused for now.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you now, what is your long-term goals for the Blitzbox? You kind of covered all of that now.
Well, there you go. It's just like, I think it's the reason why I talk like that is because often it's nice to hear the backstory as to why and answers. And my long-term goal, I'd love to go overseas for 2 years and travel and play. I think, opportunities like Russia are great. Not at this stage of my career, but, go to Russia for 2 years, get good money, and exposure to different cultures. I think it's great. I think the USA is a great opportunity. Even France is amazing if you can get a good gig there. I think that if you can have the opportunity just to use rugby for 2 years to extend your network, to focus on different cultures, and I think that it would be great. So definitely in terms of 15's long-term goal, I definitely would like to end off like that. I think. In terms of sevens, the long-term goal is I see myself here, I see myself in the system. My mates also do in the system, and I know that, and I can't wait for that day that we all get run out together.
Yeah, I did something interesting yesterday about Kieran Reid and Michael Hooper. They said that they've been playing each other for how long? When Australia played New Zealand or vice versa.
There's a cup, everything.
Yeah, and then or Super Rugby, whatever the case may be, but they always just shake hands after the game, go back to the sheds, maybe speak one or two words. But now they're playing together for, I think it's the Blitz with Billy in Japan. And now they're starting to get to know each other and see actually how the other person is. And I think that's the nice thing about playing overseas now. The Major League Rugby in America is something that's growing rapidly as well.
No, it's awesome. It's crazy, and the network you build as well. I've become, I could safely say one of my best mates at the moment, Oscar Dennis, who plays in Kenya. He lives with me now at my house in South Africa.
He's rehab, eh?
Yeah, he's doing his rehab, and we spend every weekend, almost every second day together, and without rugby and sevens and the network, I would never have met him.
Exactly.
Our mates have become best friends as well.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. That's definitely a long life friendship. Harry McNulty from Ireland, we stay in touch. I've recently, started chatting to Tom Connor and then from Ozza and I here. So it's really cool the network you get to build, as you say. And sevens, I think, allows more for that than 15s does. We all travel 10 countries a year to go and live in the same hotel.
Yeah, so that's a nice thing.
It would be silly not to chat to the guys.
Exactly.
So I think the network is awesome.
Oh, absolutely, man. So you played hockey, you played rugby, but you were to cross over once, I would suppose, by making a choice. So what would you advise to any player who might be in a conflicting situation where he has two sporting codes where he's absolutely good at? You think of Herschel Gibbs back in the day, he could play fly off and he could play cricket, even for cricket. It's called Burger, same story, he went for rugby.
Yeah.
And you were with hockey now in rugby. So what advice would you give to someone who's gifted and like into sporting codes and not sure what he wants to pursue?
I think so. I was definitely in that. I was playing on a 15A and rugby and a 15A hockey at Bishops, and that's the kind of age you have to decide, and that's a sad reality usually. But you know, I'd say a lot of people say go back to the drawing board. It's such a cliche, but really go back to it and say, because if you want to take something professionally, so for example, someone who loves rugby, their dream is to play for the Springboks, ultimately, and that's something you can make a living out of. You know, if I pursued hockey in the same way that I pursued rugby, I would be working part-time somewhere else. So it's definitely something, you know, to consider. And I know it's a big boy decision to make at that age, but if it's something you really want to pursue, you know, rugby is probably the highest paid sport in terms of team sports in South Africa. And I think it's hard to put, you know, look at something, go to someone and say, oh, it's a monetary value. It's not, because it's also the opportunities that it brings. So with rugby being the highest paid sport as a career, it opens far more doors than what another sport would open. And so, you know, when it comes down to making that crux, my dad's advice to me, he would have loved for me to play rugby. But he said, what do you enjoy doing the most?
That's important.
You know, what do you enjoy? If you had to put a rugby jersey on and run onto a rugby field now, put a hockey jersey on and run onto a hockey field right now, what would you walk off with the biggest smile? And I think I couldn't play this game if I didn't love doing it.
True.
So it wouldn't have helped if I chose rugby then and lost my love for it, because there were a lot of rugby players in my grade that were seriously talented, and none of them played in rugby at school.
It's sad because I've seen it a lot with people who are so invested, and you can't blame someone like who's 15 years old. You're not mature enough to make those decisions at that point in time. And so they pursue something and then ending up being nowhere at the end of the day because of those sort of pressure. Yeah,
the pressure is crazy, and I think I'm so grateful actually that I didn't play rugby at school, because the professionalism from such a young age really puts people off. You know, there's very few kids out of school, like a guy like Miller Du Plessis, can make a World Series debut at 18 years old and play on the world stage against New Zealand in Hong Kong, you know, Fiji in the semi-final.
He's always in the generation kind of player, to be honest.
Yeah, it's crazy, but very few players can handle that type of pressure straight out of school. So, you know, it's tough and it's hard, but you have to also have the right support. Look at your family as well. It's such a deep decision, and it's hard to tell someone how they should make that decision. So the only way I could ever advise someone to do that decision is that exact example. You know, you have a rugby jersey and a hockey jersey in your hand. And I said to you, go out and smart, run, have fun. Nobody's judging you, nobody's looking at you, which one you put on.
That's good advice.
Yeah, it's the only one I can think of, you know, and you know, when it comes to somebody, when I had to make a decision, then you start talking about money. And you say, where's your career? You know, you're 20 years old. You know, are you going to shift over to rugby, or are you going to carry on playing hockey? What? Have you got the potential to shift over to rugby?
No.
You know,
the things you have to ask yourself.
Yeah, you have to ask yourself, is it something you would do? For me, my biggest dream was to play Mastercard. When I started playing rugby, I was like, oh my word, imagine I could imagine I could run out in the Donny Craven one day.
But that's a joy there.
Yeah, but
that's a joy.
My varsity rugby was one of my best rugby ever. And then, you know, 3 years after that dream, your dream molds and shifts. And Miyagi, that coach, the first day I arrived at Marty Sevens at a speed session, his words to me, I'll never forget it. He said, I'm going to make you a Springbok Sevens man.
Wow, well, it didn't take long for that, eh?
Yeah, well, kudos to him, man.
Yeah.
And those were exact words. I mean, I remember the first time he said, oh, I really said that. Then he only remembered later that he did it. And it was just so cool, because then it just takes one seed for someone, seed of hope, for someone to say, sheesh, then I suddenly thought before. Then he put me in the 7th B team, and then I'm thinking,
well, you said this now, you put me
but you put me in the B team. I'll never forget, there was a B team sevens. It was myself, Paul De Vet, and Carl Steyn, and at one stage Josh Moon, and it was like not the main side, and we were like the B side, and I ended up playing the A side in the final.
Wow!
So I mean, and you know, all of those boys went on to play professional rugby, and it was flipping awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it's cool to see how, just a step back, put you in the right, catapult you into the right direction.
Yeah, the coaches knows best.
Yeah.
Always.
Sadly, the coaches always know
Yeah,
best.
they know best. You might think you know better.
Yeah.
I think why you put me in the B team, but then you probably needed some development.
Of course, yeah.
And that's why I put you in the B team in the first place.
Yeah.
But I think as a youngster, you don't think that way.
No.
You would have been there too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the amount of times I've been disappointed, for not being selected, and I thought, how could you not pick me? There's always a bigger plan. And as I slowly mature in my rugby career, I realize, it's not just about me and what I want. Obviously, it's important to me about what I want and my goals, but there's a bigger plan. And if I want to be in a system and I want to be in a team, I've got to fall part of that bigger plan in my best way I can.
Definitely. And we got some good news this week, James. Cape Town Sevens is back.
Wow.
I'm happy. To me, it's the biggest joy. After
No.
all my work the year, I always get my tickets, always get my accommodation. You always see me there, by the way.
Yes, always.
And you get there, you go get your beers from 11 o'clock Saturday onwards. But
Yeah.
Don't talk about that. Game started at 8 o'clock, everyone at 10, but the beer only opens at 11. I don't know why they do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, you get your beer, you can cheer for your boys, and God willing, we can have it this year with fans because it's been a while. And you guys must be so excited when you heard the news, eh?
Yeah, I think for me, one of my, I spoke about the three pillars, but one of my bigger career short-term goals is play Cape Town Sevens. I never played Cape Town. And for me, my family's never watched me play live at that level. So I think what an awesome opportunity. My grand's getting old. I'd love nothing more. We're really, really close, and I'd love nothing more for her to see me because her husband, Captain Natal, and she's grown up in a rugby environment. So she's like my number one fan behind the doors, and I think for me to play in front of them would be unbelievable. So in terms of a short-term side, I mean Cape Town, it's around the corner. Post Olympics, some guys' contracts are coming at the end, opportunities are opening up, and I really want to put my hand up to play that tournament. And just to think that the World Series is going to be back on again is like bizarre. It's so weird to think that we're actually now training towards something because before it's been empty.
Exactly. Look, when I saw the post, I was ecstatic. I was so happy. I was so happy, man. Okay, so now all the serious stuff are all done.
Yeah.
I've got some quick fire questions for you.
Okay.
I can't have an idea what you will answer, but
okay. Let's go.
Let's see where this goes. Okay, so braai or sushi?
Sushi.
Bush or beach?
Bush.
Definitely. Netflix or Showmax?
Ooh, I'm gonna go Showmax. Yeah, like I was thinking, I just found Showmax. More the stuff I'm interested in is on Showmax.
I barely watch television, I only watch sport to be honest.
Exactly.
Xbox or PlayStation? Old school, eh?
Old school.
Beer or wine? Wine. Now we can't be friends then. Instagram or Facebook?
Instagram.
Definitely.
Well, jokes to be fair, without Facebook, I wouldn't wish anyone happy birthday. Because I don't know, honestly, my dates suck. I mean, I forgot today was mine and my girlfriend's anniversary, so I mean that's
a camera.
Yeah. Well, she's sitting there, I walk in, she goes, "Oh, by the way, it's anniversary." I'm like, "Yeah, I knew that."
Yeah, you're gonna make up with that, eh?
No, exactly. I mean, today, without Facebook, to be honest, I wouldn't know whose birthday it was when. So Facebook is generally a lifesaver, but definitely Instagram.
Yeah, definitely for in terms of birthday remembrance, because I'm good at dates.
Yeah.
I know certain people, it's always your parents, a couple of close friends, but when it gets to broader people, I'm like, So next one, are you an early bird or night owl?
To be honest, I'm not owl. I try and get into bed at 9 and fall asleep at 12. So I can't, I'll get in bed and watch series. I'm very active, I like getting away from society, and I feel like the best way to do that is to watch series or read a book. So I end up staying up later than I probably should.
What's weird about me though, in terms of that, is I always tell people I'm not an early bird. But my body clock is so set that I normally wake up around 7 or 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
But if I had the choice, I would still lay in bed.
No, of course.
I wouldn't get up.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't give me the option there, but I'm a night owl early bird.
There we
Try
go.
that. So I go to bed late to wake up early. I don't typically need 8 hours of sleep. I like to have it, but I can. I end up going to bed at 11, wake up at 6, 12, wake up at 6.
Now I can't sleep anything before 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
They
Same,
were off my tongue.
same WhatsApp group.
Yeah,
There you go.
And now we can be friends.
Yeah,
It's
you
fine.
go.
Okay, and I think this should be an interesting one. Running the hill or the bleep test?
I actually, to be honest, I've got to be honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
I quite like the hill.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just personally, I feel that the hill has more benefit for me. So when I run a hill session, I'm prone to doing better at it because I see more value out of it.
Okay.
I'm also better at longer distances, so
Yeah,
taller at long strides. The smaller guys, their backs getting after about 4 reps. So yeah, for me, definitely the hill. I personally see more value than a bleep test. Bleep test is just mental. The hill is actually, I feel, physical.
Okay.
Whereas the bleep test is everybody will get to 160, but it's a mental switch to get from 160 to 190 or 180 to 200. So it's actually not necessarily about a physical feat. It's a mental feat, the bleep test. So for me, I prefer the hill. I'm probably better at it too, to be honest. so that's probably why. But yeah, the bleep is like a little hoverer that hovers over everybody's head just before, like now we've got 2 days off, does that mean running a bleep when we get back? So everyone's like, do I have a beer on Monday on the off day or do I not? So
have the beer.
Or I have a glass of wine.
Wait, we float your boat.
There you go.
Well, we're done, James. Thanks a lot, man.
Sure,
Appreciate it.
No problem.
It's taken a while, but we finally did it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it. And yeah, it's been lucky to just have a nice casual conversation, less formal environment. It's been really awesome, and I think it brings the best out of players when it's in a more relaxed.
I'm a pretty chill guy, so I can't be too serious about it.
There you go.
No, I said to a friend when I mentioned we're going to do it in person, and I said to her, I'm actually glad it's in person because normally I have these notes in front of me, like I have now. I just speak at it, and you guys can know about it. I'm not the superhuman with a mind who can remember everything. But normally it's all formally typed out, but I know what I want to say or what I want to ask. So the way I'm asking it in person is never the way it's typed down there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so I actually quite enjoy this as well.
Yeah.
So all the best for the season, and I hope to see you at Cape Town Sevens.
Thank you.
And the Olympics. And all the good events going forward.
Thank you.
So I hope everything happens well for you and all goes well for you going forward. And all the best going forward, man.
Thanks, man. And to you, thanks for everything. I know, without people like you, for us, it's very difficult. Sometimes you give us a purpose and we don't have one. Massive supporters and people that back us in the worst corners. I mean, we even see it. I know we're not really supposed to look at social media, but we do. And it's awesome to have people like you, people like Natalie, people that are behind the scenes really protecting us, and you'd be surprised what an amazing influence it has on the guys to know that when we come home, although we've lost in a 5th playoff to Canada, it really does make a difference. So thanks to you, and thanks to everybody else that's just like Angus in the way that they are. It doesn't go unnoticed, and it's awesome. It's almost like a reserve tank.
No.
So
that's nice to hear.
Never underestimate that, and I'm sure you'll hear from the other guys. We're always willing to make time for people like you. So thank you.
No, I know that. You guys are awesome. Well, ladies and gents, that's James Murphy for you. If you enjoyed this, go follow his Instagram pages, Just Adventuring, Protecting Lions, Spine Armband, and James Murphy SA. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.